Hi. All right, so we're doing this. I know everyone's making a YouTube channel right now, and I guess I'm just following the trends because here I am, drinking coffee in my apartment, talking to my phone. So, as you can guess by the title, I'm going to be talking a little bit about why I'm in Korea, why I'm on quarantine, and how that whole process has been. I'm in the middle of it. I just started my quarantine on the 14th. Well, the 14th I arrived here, so I guess the 15th is my first day of quarantine. Um, so yeah, also this is going to be a getting ready with me video because I feel like I'm too awkward to just sit in front of a camera and talk. So I'm going to be putting on makeup and going nowhere. So here we go. So let me just begin by saying I am in Korea to teach English. So that's why I came here. I originally came to Korea a year ago. I started my contract on March 1st, 2019. And yeah, I teach kindergarten. It's been great so far. I mean, ups and downs. I can put that in a separate video because I could talk for hours about cultural differences that has made it kind of difficult for me to live here and work here. But for the most part, it was good and money is good. They set me up in this little apartment and I don't have to pay rent. My boss pays it. So that's been really cool. I just pay utilities and my phone, and those are the only two bills that I have. So it's been really great. I finished college in 2018, and I didn't want to directly go into my master's program. So I decided to come to Korea because I wanted to get teaching experience. I plan on being a teacher as a career. So yeah, I just decided to come here because it could kind of function as a gap year, but also it's productive because I'm also making money. I'm not just like lollygagging because I hate lollygagging. So that was kind of my reasoning for Korea. I chose Korea because of the perks that I mentioned earlier, is that I don't have to pay for my apartment, and it's just the most cost efficient place to go. I could have chosen anywhere in the world, but Korea stood out to me because very low startup costs, and it just, I don't know, it spoke to me, and I decided to come here. I don't regret it. And yeah, so that was in March of 2019 when I started. And I actually signed a contract for 1 year, so it ended on March 1st, 2020. And some of the terms for me staying for another year was that I would get a week in between the contracts to go home to California and see my family. So on February 25th, I took off and I went to California. And by that point, the whole coronavirus thing was in full swing already here in Korea, but in California, not so much. And so I didn't really have any issues going back to California. It was just like returning home for a vacation. So I did that. And while I was in California, things kind of got a little bit worse. Well, things got worse gradually over time, but also in Korea, things were not doing the best. And so my school in Korea decided to close because parents were really nervous about sending their kids to school during this time. Because, like I said, I work with kindergarten students. They're really young and they're pretty susceptible to things like this. So parents were nervous, they closed the school, and I was like, sweet, that means I get more vacation time. So I ended up staying in California I actually bought a plane ticket to come back a week later because that's when my boss said school was going to start. School did not start. They decided to close longer. It was a whole ordeal trying to get a refund because Korean Air just didn't answer their phone. So I could not get a refund through Korean Air. I just had to miss my flight. And I ended up appealing with American Express. They gave me my money back. Shout out to American Express. They're really cool. You guys should get an American Express card because they don't play. Like, they just give you your refund, and it's really great. So I was worried because I thought I was going to be out of another $700, but I was not. So then from there, it just progressively got worse in California, and things got better in Korea. So my boss in Korea was like, you need to come back. We're going to start school, and you need to be here. And I was like, well, I mean, yes, I do need to come back. However, I don't feel comfortable coming back right now because I just don't want to travel right now. It's kind of dangerous for me to travel right now. At least that's how I felt. I felt very paranoid about traveling in the midst of everything that was going on. So I conveyed that to my boss, and he had no sympathy. So he's like, you need to get here or else you're fired. And I'm pretty sure there's some legality issues with that. But, I mean, I know there are, because he has to give me 30 days warning, and there's a whole thing. He can't just fire me in the midst of a pandemic because, I mean, it wasn't necessarily legal for me to go and travel. I mean, it's only for like essential travel, and me coming to Korea for my job isn't necessarily essential. By this point in California, people were getting ticketed for going outside of their house unnecessarily. And so I had to go from Eastvale all the way to Los Angeles. It's about, 50, 60 miles. And you're really not supposed to be that far away from your house unless you're going to like a doctor's visit or something. But like, yeah, you just really aren't supposed to be traveling. So yeah, that happened. And I just basically told my boss to suck it because I was like really stressed and I just was really paranoid. By that point, I hadn't left my house in like 3 weeks. I mean, not even to go grocery shopping because I was staying with my parents, and my dad went grocery shopping for us, so I didn't have to. But what ended up being the tipping point was that I realized that my visa was expiring soon. And so I kind of had some urgency to come back to Korea because my visa was expiring, and I didn't want to go through the hassle of renewing it while in Los Angeles and getting my boss to send over files and documents, like signing stuff. So I was like, you know what, I'll just go back to Korea because if I don't, then I won't be able to go back. So I booked a flight, and like 4 days later, I flew to Korea. And that was on Tuesday. Well, Tuesday here in Korea. I left California on Sunday. I arrived on Tuesday in Korea because we are 16 hours ahead, I think. So yeah, it was a long flight. And by the time I got off my flight, I was like super tired. Even though I slept on the plane, I was still really, really tired and did not feel like dealing with anything. But I had to go through a whole bunch of shit. So the thing about me coming back to Korea is that I'm not a Korean citizen. And because of that, I'm on a visa. And basically everyone at the airport and everyone at immigration didn't really know how to treat me because I'm a foreigner, but I'm not a tourist. And that distinction is kind of important because for the tourists, if you don't have a permanent residence in Korea, then you have to stay in a government facility during your quarantine, because everyone coming from a different country to Korea has to be quarantined for 14 days, and the government monitors it. So if you are not a Korean citizen, then you have to stay in a government facility. It costs 100,000 won per day for 14 days, so that is 1.4 million won, which is about 1,400 bucks roughly. I mean, that's not exact at all. It's less than that, but still expensive. It's over $1,000 for sure. So I did not want to do that, and they warned me when I checked in that this was a possibility. It was kind of up to the discretion of the immigration officer when I went through immigration, which worried me, but I decided to just gamble, take the risk, because I do have a visa, and I figured that should be good enough. But since my visa is expiring soon, there was a whole bunch of controversy, because they're like, yeah, you have a permanent residence, and it's on your ID card, but your visa is expiring soon, so we have to treat you like you don't have a visa, which was stressful. So long story kind of short, I had to appeal to everyone every step of the way. Like, going through quarantine, I had to tell them, I know my visa is expiring, but on my ID card you can see where my residence is, and I just can't afford to stay in this government facility. Please let me quarantine at home. And they're like, okay, cool, you can quarantine at home. And then I went through immigration, and they're like, yo, your visa is expiring. And I was like, I know, but please let me quarantine at home. And they're like, okay. And then I finally got out of that portion of the airport, and I thought, okay, I'm home free. But no, I couldn't just hop on a bus because I was in quarantine, so I had to take a special bus. However, I had asked my friend Daisy to meet me at the airport to help me with my bags, because I had 2 very large bags and also 1 carry-on, and so I was concerned with how I was going to take a bus from Incheon all the way to Yongin, which is where I live. It's like a 50-minute bus ride. So my friend came to help me, and that was a controversy because there were a whole bunch of like cops and people in hazmat suits, and they were like, well, she can't ride with you because you're in quarantine and she's not, and blah blah blah. So I ended up just giving her one of my bags, and she came in a different bus and like helped me with that bag. So that worked out. That was okay. It was okay. It took a lot of talking to several people, but ended up being okay. But then I thought, okay, well, I'll just buy my bus ticket and I'll get out of here, right? Right? No, not right. Because the lady who was supposed to help me with my bus was like, whoa, you're not Korean. And I was like, lady, we've been over this. I know I'm not Korean. I never said I was Korean, but I still need to like get on this bus. Like, I live in Korea. And she was like, you gotta go to this government facility because you're not Korean. And I was like, I'm not Korean, but I am a resident. It just didn't compute for her. It just didn't make sense. And she was like, well, I need to talk to my boss. So she left and spoke to someone else. And then she came back and she was like, yeah, you got to go to this government facility. And I was like, okay, look at my ID card. Look at the back of it. You'll see an address. That is my address where I live in Korea. So though I am not a citizen, I live in Korea, and I should be able to quarantine at my house. That's what the immigration officer said. That's what the quarantine officer said. So I don't know who you are or why you're telling me I can't, but you need to figure it out because I am not going to that facility. And she was like, okay. So here's what you're gonna do. Since you're American, you need to go talk to these military people, and the US military will decide if you can quarantine at home. So we go downstairs to this like military booth, and there are these people just like chilling, and they're like, okay, you gotta sign here. And I'm like, well, what am I signing? And they're like, well, it's just a transport to your base. Like, which base do you have to go to? And I was like, I don't live on a military base. And she was like, what? Aren't you a dependent? And I was like, no. So then apparently the lady that I was speaking to that was supposed to help me with the bus told these people that I was U.S. military, which I am not. So then they're like, oh, well, we can't help you if you're not military. And I'm like, okay, can you tell her that? So then she comes over, and they're like, yeah, she's not military. And she was like, oh, she's not? And I'm like, when did I tell you that I was military? Okay, I never said that. And this is just out of their jurisdiction. Just let me go home. So then she's like, oh, okay, I'm so sorry. So then she finally, like, lets me get on this bus. And I take a bus to this, like, neutral location at this random, like, sports complex. And then from there, I take a van to my apartment, finally. So that whole ordeal happened, but I was just happy to be home. And I had to download this app for quarantine at my house. And so I did that, and I have to record my temperature twice a day, once in the morning and once in the afternoon, for 14 days, which is cool. I can do that. And then fast forward to 2 days ago, I get a call from, apparently it's the city official who has been assigned to my case. And he's like, yo, you gotta come in for a COVID test. And I was like, okay. And he's like, they didn't give you one at the airport? And I was like, no. And he's like, well, they should have. And I'm like, well, they didn't. There was a whole lot of confusion. I don't know what happened. So then he's like, all right, well, you gotta come in. However, you cannot take public transportation or a taxi. Now, I don't have a car in Korea because I don't have an international license, and also I just don't want to have a car. Public transportation is so efficient here, and there really isn't a need for it. Like, my job is about, I don't know, 2 miles away from my house. It's only 1 subway stop away, so I can get to my job in like 15 minutes if I'm in a hurry. It's totally doable. So I just never bought a car, and I don't plan on getting a car. So the guy's like, well, if you don't have a car, you gotta ask someone to drive you, otherwise you gotta walk. So he sends me the location of the testing place, and apparently, can you guys hear how busy the street is outside? I'm so sorry. I have the window open. My bad. But so the testing place is actually 4 miles away from my apartment. And so I call my boss, and I'm like, hey boss, can you drive me? And he says no, he's busy. So I'm like, all right. And his wife has actually been helping me with like acclimating to Korea. Like, when I first moved here, she was a big help, and she helps me still with, because I'm not good at Korean. Like, the Korean language is very difficult in my defense, and I am trying to teach myself to no avail. So in stuff that like is all in Korean, she helps me, like if I need to order food or something. So I texted her, and I was like, hey, can you drive me to this testing place? And she's like, I'm out of town. So she tells me to call them back and ask what my other options are. So I do. I call them back, and I'm like, hey, no one can drive me. I don't have a bike. I don't have a car. And there's just no way for me to get there, because I also can't walk because I had knee surgery a few years ago, and walking 4 miles each way in the rain and it's cold, it's going to hurt me a lot. I can't walk that far. So then the guy tells me that basically I'm excused from the test. He's like, yeah, since you don't have any symptoms, it should be okay. Just keep on monitoring your symptoms, and if anything changes, then you can come in for a test. But as of now, you're fine. So I'm like, yippee, hip hip hooray, I don't have to do it. So I text my boss's wife, and I'm like, hey, they basically excused me. And she's like, sweet, give me the phone number of the person you were talking to. So I did, and I thought that was over and done with. And then I got a package at my door that had some supplies, basically just, oops, this is the wrong one. Basically just like this hand sanitizer, and also some it's all in Korean, but I'm assuming it's just like antibacterial spray, just like cleaning for tabletops and such. Also some single-use thermometers to check my temperature. Like, this stuff all arrived at my door, which I was super glad for. And then fast forward to yesterday. I got a text from my boss's wife, and she said that I needed to go in and get this COVID test. And I told her that I was already excused from that city official. He told me I didn't have to, but apparently she called him back. Very fast car outside. She called him back and basically scheduled for me to go in anyway, because apparently there's some new policy where I have to, even though no one told me that. So she's like, yeah, you gotta go do it. And my boss basically wants me to go get this test. And so I'm like, all right. And she's like, yeah, I mean, it's not him per se, it's the franchise, blah, blah, blah. You need to go get it. Which brings me to a whole problem that I have with where I work, because basically I have to do a lot of things outside of my job description, and I'll definitely talk about this in another video because there's a long list of complaints about this, but this is just an example of one instance where I had to do something out of my job description and out of my contract. Because when you get hired in Korea as an American, you've got to go and get a medical test. They test you for drugs and any pre-existing conditions, because there is national health care here. So I don't think they can deny you based on pre-existing conditions, but they still test you anyway. And Korea doesn't have the same laws about discrimination, so it wouldn't surprise me if they would fire you if you had an illness that you didn't disclose to them. So there's that. Right. So anywho's, I had to go get this test even though I had already gotten my medical exam when I first got hired in Korea, which is the only thing that I have to do. And my boss's wife was making it seem like I also had to do this COVID test, which I know is not true. But I go and do it anyway, keep the peace, pick my battles, whatever. And they send an ambulance to my apartment. I hop on in, and on the ride, I actually took a selfie. Maybe I'll insert it somewhere here. But I was playing Pokemon Go. If you guys have Pokemon Go, you should add me. My Pokemon username is Shangotem, SHANGOTEM. Add me and I'll send you a gift. So anyway, I was playing Pokemon Go, and we go to this testing place. Now let me tell you about getting tested for the coronavirus, because I feel like people don't talk about this enough. It fucking hurts, okay? They stick the longest Q-tip that you have ever seen in your fucking life. They stick it down your throat, and then they stick it so far up your nose that it like meets the back of your throat. Just try to picture that. Maybe I'll insert a diagram or something, because like, yo. I was not prepared for this. And the lady, when she did it, she was like, and this lady doesn't speak very much English, but she goes, "This will be painful." Cool. And then she's like, "Yeah, you will cry, and it will feel like a sneeze." And I'm like, all right, cool. And sure enough, that's exactly what it felt like. It was painful, and it felt just like someone was, I don't know, scratching at my fucking sinus. That's about how it felt. So, yeah, that happened. And immediately after, she was like, "Put on your mask and go." Her bedside manner was not up to par, but you know what? Hey, shout out to all the healthcare workers, because we need your help and I appreciate you so much. But that shit hurts, so maybe be a little nicer to people when they're getting tested. I don't know. So, yeah, I went home, and that was yesterday. I am still sore in my nostrils. Like, well, not even in my nostrils. It's farther back than that. My fucking sinuses. I don't know. Like, it's rough. I've been taking ibuprofen because it still hurts, and that was, what time is it now? That was probably like 18 hours ago. So, yeah, don't go outside, you guys. You should stay home, because if you don't, you're gonna have to get tested for the Rona, and it's not a pleasant experience. Like, I wouldn't want to do that just for like funsies. I'd rather just stay at home. And yeah, I didn't really have to do it. And I kind of resent my boss and his wife for making me do it, because I could have just been excused, and they called on my behalf and scheduled it anyway, even though the city official already told me I didn't have to. But such is life as an expat in Korea. When you don't speak the language, your boss has so much control over your life. Like I said, my boss pays for my apartment. And I can't handle any official things like with the government or like any paperwork by myself, because it's all in Korean. And I'm kind of helpless here. And that was a main factor that I was considering when I was thinking about renewing, is I'm like, I mean, am I truly, I messed up. Am I truly independent in Korea? Not really, because there's a lot of stuff that's just out of my control because of the language barrier. And as a foreigner, you're kind of treated like a second-class citizen a lot of the time. And it's something that you just have to like get used to, because you can't really help yourself when you don't speak the language. So that has been a little bit stressful, and it's just the status quo now. But so yeah, if you guys want to hear about that in another video, I can totally do that. Woo. So this is the final look. I am all ready to go absolutely nowhere for the next like 10 days. Yeah, so kind of to end the story, today is, let's see, today's Friday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, so this is day 3 of quarantine. I've ordered delivery every day to eat, and it's actually not that expensive. But to my surprise, today when I walked out of my apartment to get my tiramisu and a vanilla latte, I saw that someone had delivered a care package to my apartment. I'm really grateful because I cannot go grocery shopping, and I was stressed about having to order every day, because while it's not too expensive, I didn't want to spend a whole bunch of money while I'm not working. So this was very nice. And I believe it's from the Korean government. It could also be from my boss, but I'm pretty sure it's from my local government. So shout out to Sujigu Yongin, because that's where I live. They've just been hooking me up. So it's great. Yeah, that's kind of the end of the story. If you guys want to hear more about my life in Korea, or maybe an apartment tour, or if you want to know more about teaching in Korea, I can do videos on those as well. Just let me know in the comments. Just let me know what you guys want to see. This is my first YouTube video ever, so just let me know how I did and what you want to see in the future, and go ahead and subscribe and share this video, and I will see you in the next one.